It's Hilary again from the Red Brick Center for the Arts in Aspen, Colorado. This week, I'm going to show you a really fun printmaking project. It's called collagraph printmaking. Printmaking is often something that you need to do at an art center, a studio, in school, because you need special materials to do printmaking. But this style of printmaking you can do all by yourself at your house. So I'm going to show you how to do it. The supplies you're going to need are, you're going to need a piece of paper, maybe a couple in case you mess up. You're going to need some scissors. You are going to need a glue stick. You're going to need some washable markers. Crayola markers work great. Rose art is fine. Crazy art is fine. Anything that's a washable marker will work for this project. Sharpies do not work for this project, so stay away from those permanent markers. You need a regular washable marker. You are going to need some kind of box material. It could have come from cereal, it could come from crackers, pasta. It doesn't really matter, but you have to have this thin kind of cardboard box material for this project. And you're also going to need either a sponge or a damp washcloth and probably a mat or something to work on so that you have a spot to do that stays nice and clean. So I'm going to show you all the steps how to make a beautiful project in collagraph printmaking. This project is one that's in radial design. So a radial design is symmetrical. That means it's the same on both sides, kind of like a butterfly is, but it's also the same in a circle. So you could think of it kind of like a bicycle wheel with all those spokes that are all the same all the way around. So this design that we're going to make is also going to be all the same all the way around. It's called radial symmetry and collagraph printmaking. There's some new vocabulary words for you. Let's get started. It's going to be fun. Okay, so to do printmaking, you first have to make something called the block. And this is the block from my project that I showed just before this. And so I'm going to show you how to make your block out of this cereal box thin cardboard material. So the first part you want to do is cut out a piece, and wherever it folds, we're not going to use those for the base of the block. We are going to need a piece that's about 4 inches. So if you have a ruler, that would be great to be able to measure. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the box right here so that it's kind of up so we can see, and I'm going to push my ruler up against that fold. And I am going to go out 4 inches and make a little dot. I'm making my dot kind of big so you can see it. And I'm going to do that again, a little bit higher. I'm going to go out 4 inches and make another dot, just like that. And I'm going to do it one more time. It's always a good idea to do that 3 times. I'm going to go down here into the corner, go out to the 4 and make a dot. Now we're going to play connect the dots. We're going to use our ruler and we're going to draw a line through those dots. So that way we know that we have a really straight line and we're definitely going to have 4 inches. So I am going to cut right now the bottom where this folds. I'm going to cut that part off. And I'm also going to cut this part where this part folds. I'm going to cut it all the way off to the other side because it's a little bit in my way and I don't need that part. And I'm going to cut along this line that I drew. And then the next part, I do need to decide how far 4 inches is this way. We are making a square. So I'm going to turn my project to the side and measure it again in 3 spots. I'm going to go all the way to the edge and make a dot at the 4. And then I'm going to move my ruler a little higher and make another dot at the 4. And then I'm going to connect the dots this way with my ruler. I just did it twice. I'm connecting those 2 dots. I'm going to draw a line just like that. And then I'm going to cut that part out. So this part is the base of the block. So we want to remember this is called the base. This whole thing is called the block. So the next part is that we are going to need one more piece of cardboard that's the same size as this one. So I'm going to use a new piece because this piece is folded. If I put it on there, it's not big enough. Okay, so it does have to be a piece that doesn't have any folds in it. So I'm going to set my base of my block on this piece, and I'm going to put it down, and it looks like I can fit it. So I'm going to trace it. Hold the top one nice and still, trace it all the way around, and then when you get that, you're going to cut that out. We're going to use one of these pieces for the base and one of these pieces for the design that goes on top of the base. Okay, so we have those 2 pieces. Those are cut out and ready to go. So we are going to start working in the corner of the block. And so that's this part down here. We're going to use one of these cardboard pieces to draw, and you're going to need a pencil. You should not draw with one of your markers. You should use a pencil. I'm going to use a pen so you can see a little bit better. So in the very corner, you're going to want to draw something that either is curved or spiky, and keeping it in the corner. So I'm going to draw this kind of spiky design here like that, right in the corner. And then what I'm going to do is use my scissors to cut it out. So I'm going to cut very carefully right on where I drew. I don't want to cut any of the rest of this cardboard because I am going to need the rest of it for this project. So I'm just going to cut right where I drew. And when I finish cutting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over so that you can see the colored side. I'm going to flip it right into the corner of the base. So this is called the base, and I'm going to turn that just like that. That's going to go there. Then the next part I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a curve or an arc. And I can make it spiky or curved or just a straight curved line. I'm going to make mine a straight curved line right here. And then at this edge, I'm going to make mine spiky again. Just like this. And I'm going to cut that out as well and flip it over onto the base. So when I finish that, I'll show you what's next. Okay, so I finished cutting that out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on the back of it and glue it down to my block. With the rest of my cardboard, I've gotten a head start. I'm going to want to draw some shapes or something in this section. I've chose to draw a large triangle and then 2 medium ones and 2 smaller ones. And I'm working on cutting those out. And when I get them all cut out, I'm going to again put glue on the back of them and then glue them right down onto my block. So after I get that step finished, I'll show you what's next. The next part is working on this top corner right up here of the block. So I have this that I've been cutting out of, and on my first piece I just cut a triangle to put into the corner. On this one I'm going to leave it so that it is all the way in the corner, and you can make it curved or spiky. I'm going to make mine like an arc, so I'm going to draw here like this and around, and I'm going to cut that piece out. And then once I get that piece out, I'm going to flip it over. Well, actually first I'm going to put some glue on it, and then I'm going to flip it over and glue it right into the corner of my block. when you glue things down, you want to make sure that nothing is accidentally sticking up. So I might have not got enough glue in that corner there. So what I can do is move that a little, add a little bit of glue underneath it, and push that part down. So I have this space in between here that I can add some things. I can add more shapes or lines. You get to pick. There is space. You could also choose to leave it empty. I'm going to draw a couple circles on here. I think I'll put 4 circles. I'm going to cut those out and glue them right here to my block, and then my block will be finished. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is using the washable markers. We're going to be coloring the cardboard that is the stuff that we cut out. So all the colored cardboard. If we get marker onto the brown background, that's okay, but we want to try our best right now to not get marker there. So what you want to do is pick colors that you're happy with, because you're going to keep using those same colors 4 times in your project. So whatever I decide to color this as, I'm going to keep coloring it the same way every time. So I'm going to pick green, and you're going to color on top of the cardboard. And I want you to go slowly and kind of in circles with your marker and do as best you can. Now when you're coloring, it's going to look a little funny. It's not going to look like the marker is really working that well. So just do your best. Try to get it everywhere you can, and sometimes it's good to even go back and do it more than one time. And then that part is finished. So then you can move on to the next one. And I recommend using a different color. And you can color this. Now if you'd like to make designs like stripes or polka dots or something like that, you can. You're just going to want to remember how you did it, because you're going to want to do it the same way each time so that we end up with radial symmetry. Symmetry is like that butterfly wing where it's the same on both sides. So I'm going around. I kind of went 2 times with this purple over the base, kind of going back. And I'm going to work on coloring the whole thing. When I finish coloring, I'll show you what it looks like before the next step. So I finished coloring my block. It's a little hard to tell, and it will be hard to tell on yours too. But I used these colors, and I colored this green. This is purple, green, light green, green, light green, green. This is purple with a blue dot in the middle, and so are all of these. It's purple with a blue dot, and then I colored this top part yellow. So the next part is to use your piece of paper and your sponge or your wet washcloth and start to go up and down in one corner of the paper. So you can imagine that the paper could be divided into 4, and I'm going up and down in one corner. Now I don't want very much water, so when I start this, it looks kind of shiny, and then I'm going to stop and wait, and that amount of time, the shininess is gone. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to go up and down a little bit. I see that it's shiny. I'm going to wait until the shininess is gone. And then what I need to do is I need to take this part. This is the middle of the block. It's going to be the middle of the print. So I need to turn this over in a way where this stays in the middle. So I'm going to turn it, and I'm going to look, and that, if I flip it just like that, is going to be the middle. That part needs to be a little bit damp, so I need to blot it again. And then I have to wait till that shininess goes away. This next part's super important that you don't move the block. So I'm going to flip it over and set it down, and I can't move it at all. I'm going to count or make sure I hold it for 10 seconds, and while I hold it and I push down pretty hard, I'm using my other hand to rub. I want to rub all over the back. I'm going to do that with the other hand, going all over the back, pushing down pretty hard. Then when I'm all done, I'm gonna carefully peel it up. And there is my print of my first piece. Really cool. So, guess what's next? We need to color it exactly the same way again. If you forget how you colored it before, take a look at your print. I'm gonna work on coloring my block, green, purple, all these exactly the same, the top one yellow, and then I'll show you what's next. So I colored my block exactly the same way as this print, and I'm ready to print it again. I'm going to need to use my damp washcloth or my damp sponge and very carefully get the paper wet right over here without getting this print wet. So I'm going to blot it up and down, and I see that it's shiny, so I'm going to wait just a little bit so that shininess can go away. And then I need to do it again. If you don't get your paper wet enough, the marker won't come off of your block onto the paper and make a very nice print. So if you're having trouble with printing and your print was really, really light, it could have been because you didn't have your paper wet or damp enough. It also could have been because you didn't rub hard enough on the back. On the other hand, if your print is really blurry looking, then you used too much water and it just got kind of blurry. So what I need to do this time is make sure that this stays in the middle, and I'm going to line it up real close to here. So if I take this and I flip it over this way, I'm going to check and make sure, yep, that looks good, and I'm going to set it down, and once I set it down, I can't move it. I'm going to push really hard on the back. For about 10 seconds, I'm pushing down and rubbing back and forth with my fingers. And pretty soon after I finished rubbing, and I'm going to carefully peel it up. And it looks like that. It's looking just like printmaking is supposed to look. It always looks a little different than just coloring a page. So that's the fun part about printmaking. So I need to color this again exactly the same way I did it before, and then I'll show you how to print it again so that we can keep working on that radial symmetry and we can line it up just right. All right, my block is colored and I'm ready to work on this bottom corner here. I'm going to make sure I don't get any water on this top part. I'm going to blot up and down a little bit. When I see my paper's wet, I'm going to wait for that to soak in and get into that paper. I don't want it to be shiny. And I'm going to do it again. And wait for the shininess to go away. I'm going to hold my block and I'm going to turn it so that I can make sure that that center piece is going to be lined up right there in the middle. And I'm going to set it down and not move it. Rub on it, and when I'm done rubbing, I'm gonna peel it up, and I'll have 3 prints done, and I'll just need to make one more right here. You're gonna make the last one just the same way. Make sure you line it up really, really good and carefully so you can get your last print done. I'll show you what mine looks like after I get the last print on there. So I'm gonna peel this up. Looks just like that. Looking great. So I'm going to color this, line it up, get this wet, line this up really good, and print it one more time right here. So I just finished rubbing on the damp paper, and I'm ready to peel off my very last print. Let's see how it turned out. Oh, it turned out great. So the last part of this project is to let it dry. Sometimes the paper can get a little wrinkly after it's been wet, so you could put a heavy book on top of it to let it get more flat. And once it's dry, what I like to do is I like to cut off some of the extra paper so that my piece is square at the very end or just doesn't have the extra paper. So once I get that all finished, I'll show you the final product. I hope that you've liked printmaking. It's a really fun activity. You could try it again. This block doesn't go bad. You could try this same block with different colors, or you could make a different block. One way to clean your block is with your damp washcloth or your sponge. You can just blot this a little bit and see how some of the color comes off. If that's what you would want to do, you'd want to clean it a little bit if you wanted to try printing it with some different colors on a different piece of paper. My projects are finished. I have 2 different Collagraph Radial prints, and they were done with just some simple materials. I hope that you really enjoyed the project. Make sure to look for how to share a photo of your work with the Red Brick Center for the Arts in Aspen, and I can't wait to see your work. Stay tuned for the next project.